Okay, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into a true enigma, the BETZ sphere.
Ooh, okay.
You know those stories about strange objects and UFO whispers?
Right.
Well, this one's got it all. A mysterious metal sphere, unexplained movements, government interest, even whispers of a cover-up. We're combing through Wikipedia, first-hand accounts, and some seriously intriguing X-ray analysis to try and crack this case wide open.
Sounds intriguing already.
Oh, it gets weirder, trust me.
And what makes this case so fascinating is that it takes us back to a time when the world was a little less explained.
Yeah,
The
but
1970s, a time when the lines between science fiction and reality seemed to blur, especially when it came to the idea of UFOs.
right, it's 1974 Florida. The Betts family is wandering through their property after a brush fire picture, a scene straight out of the Twilight Zone, and bam. They stumble across this perfectly smooth, metallic sphere, about the size of a bowling ball, but way heavier.
Wow, I can only imagine. This seemingly mundane event, a simple discovery after a fire, quickly spiraled into a story that gripped the nation. Why do you think that is?
It's like that feeling when you find something unexpected.
Yeah.
It sparks your curiosity. It makes you wonder, what if there's something more to this?
Yeah.
Initially, the Betts family thought it might be an old cannonball. I mean, given Florida's history, it's not that far-fetched.
True. Right.
But then, things took a turn for the bizarre, wouldn't you say?
Okay.
According to the family, this sphere, this seemingly inert object, starts moving on its own, rolling around, stopping abruptly, even seeming to follow them around. It's enough to make anyone wonder if they've stumbled into an episode of The Twilight Zone for real.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little creepy. They didn't just try, like, putting it in a box to see if it could escape.
There's no mention of that, but according to their accounts, it was as if this thing had a mind of its own. The son, Terry, even said it would vibrate and hum when he played certain notes on his guitar, almost like it resonated with specific frequencies. It's like some kind of weird sci-fi movie prop come to life. This is where that 1970s cultural fascination with the unknown really kicks in, don't you think?
Absolutely. Public trust in institutions, particularly the government, was pretty low after Watergate. So anything that hinted at secrets or cover-ups was viewed with a healthy dose of suspicion. It created the perfect breeding ground for extraordinary stories to take root and spread.
And spread they did. So how did this go from a strange family discovery to making headlines?
Oh, I know this one.
Enter in the media.
You know how it is, one minute you're a family with a weird find, the next you're headline news? Local papers like the Miami Herald pick up the story and boom, it's picked up by national outlets like UPI. It's a classic example of how a local curiosity can capture the public imagination and become a national sensation practically overnight.
Especially with a healthy dose of mystery thrown in right.
Exactly.
So the story's blowing up, everyone's talking about who you're going to call.
Right.
The Ghostbusters weren't around yet, so
No.
they may be right.
You'd think they'd be the ones to get to the bottom of it. And there were initial reports that the Navy dismissed it, just some industrial part, a giant ball bearing something like that. But you know how these things go, the deeper you dig, the stranger it gets.
Okay, spill the tea. What did they find?
Well, the family eventually lets the Navy examine the sphere at the Naval Air Station's Cecil Field.
Okay.
They X-rayed, it ran all sorts of tests, and nothing. They couldn't say for sure what it was, where it came from, or what it did.
Hold on, they couldn't even figure out the X-rays. What does that even mean?
The X-rays themselves were unusual. We're talking about variations in density, suggesting it wasn't a solid mass, and then there's this whole other thing.
Don't leave me hanging.
The Astonishing Legends blog goes into detail about these X-rays. They apparently showed 3 smaller spheres inside the main one. And get this, each one had these thin wires or filaments attached to them. If you're thinking what I'm thinking, it's definitely not your average lost cannonball at this point.
Okay, that's just wild. What did the Navy make of all this? Did they just shrug and say, weird, right?
Publicly, they basically said, not ours, not a threat, you guys have fun with that. But some accounts, including that YouTube video we mentioned, tell a different story. They claim the Navy was intensely interested in the sphere, even trying to drill into it.
You've got to be kidding me. What did the Betts family say to that?
Apparently, they flat out refused. They were worried about damaging it, especially after a scientist named Dr. James Harder got involved.
Okay, rewind Dr. Harder. Who's this new character?
Dr. Harder was a big deal at the time, an engineering professor and a prominent figure in UFO research. He actually became an advisor to the Betts family, conducting his own tests and examining the sphere.
And what did this UFO expert make of this whole situation?
He was cautious, never fully committing to the idea of an extraterrestrial origin, but he did find the sphere's properties really unusual, especially its magnetic behavior, said it seemed to defy the laws of physics as he understood them.
So we've gone from a strange sphere to potentially physics-breaking technology. This is where things start to get really interesting, wouldn't you say? Okay, so we've got a mysterious metal sphere potentially bending the laws of physics, a very intrigued Navy, and now a UFO researcher in the mix. Where does this wild ride take us next?
Well, you can't talk about a story this big in the 1970s without mentioning the media frenzy, right? And who else but the National Enquirer jumps into the fray? They even offered a reward for proof of alien life.
This is back when a tabloid could make national news, right? So they've got the story. They're offering rewards. What's next? A panel of experts.
Exactly. And not just any experts. They brought in Dr. J. Allen Hynek, a name you might recognize from the world of ufology. He had worked with the Air Force investigating UFO sightings, so if anyone could shed light on this strange sphere, it was him.
Okay, so we got Dr. Hynek, the UFO expert, examining the sphere for the National Enquirer. What's the verdict? Alien tech or a whole lot of nothing?
You'd think with all this attention, we'd finally get some answers right. But the Enquirer's investigation just throws another log on the fire. While some, like Dr. Harder, still believed the sphere was something extraordinary, others, including Dr. Hynek, landed on a more grounded explanation.
You mean they thought it was just a regular, everyday, not from outer space sphere?
Hynek, even with his experience in UFO research, concluded it was likely man-made. But here's the thing, even he couldn't fully explain those bizarre movements that everyone kept reporting.
So even the experts are stumped. This is where good conspiracy theory starts to sound more and more believable.
And the story gets even wilder. According to that YouTube video, while the Enquirer was doing its own testing, someone supposedly called Terry Betts, the son, claiming his mother had been in an accident. Of course, he rushes home only to find out it was a complete lie, a way to get him away from the sphere.
Wait, are you serious? They staged an accident to get their hands on this thing. That takes this whole story to a whole other level of crazy.
That's the claim. And while he was gone, the sphere supposedly went missing, only to reappear later, and according to Terry, it was different. The strange movements, the vibrations, all gone.
Okay, hold on. So either this sphere pulled off the ultimate disappearing act and somehow changed its own properties, or someone switched it outright. What are the chances?
The million-dollar question. And here's where it gets even more intriguing. Years later, Dr. Hynek's son mentioned that his father had a similar sphere, claimed it was connected to a UFO case in Florida.
Hold up. Are you saying Dr. Hynek, the UFO researcher, could have swapped out the BETZ sphere? That's quite the accusation.
It's important to remember that this is all based on accounts and speculation. There's no hard evidence of any swap. But the timing, the sphere's sudden change, it definitely adds fuel to the fire.
No kidding. So what are we left with? We've got a mysterious metal sphere, unexplained behavior, government interest, and now potentially a high-stakes switcheroo. What do you make of it all?
It's a story that highlights our fascination with the unknown, wouldn't you say? The BETZ sphere remains a mystery, a symbol of how a simple object can spark such curiosity, speculation, and debate. It reminds us that sometimes the most compelling stories are those without easy answers.
It makes you wonder what else is out there just waiting to be discovered right. For the deep dive, I'm your host, signing off, and remember, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
I would have been on top of the charts, but it's politics. You do some gimmick shit and post, you get a lot of clicks. Drop some real shit and they probably won't acknowledge it.